Hello dear students, we are back again with the portions we have left earlier. Last time we discussed about the directors, and under that category we discussed relating to the managerial remuneration. We also discussed different other aspect, different types of directors. Today we will discuss the other aspects, the office of the directors, including the powers of the directors, the duties of the directors, the liabilities of the directors. So all these things today we will discuss. Now coming to the office of the director, we have already discussed how a director is appointed. Different types of directors are appointed in different basis. So we will discuss how the office of the director is vacated. And it is obvious it comes under section 164, which gives that if a director has any disqualification specified under 164, then he has to vacate the office of the director. Second category, it says that if he remains absent from all the meetings of the board of directors held during a period of 12 months. So for 1 year he remains vacant. He is not attending any meeting. Every quarter there is a meeting and he is not attending the meeting. So because he is not attending the meeting, by default his directorship is cancelled. And third, if he acts in contravention of the provisions in section 184 relating to entering into contract or arrangement which is directly or indirectly where he is interested. If he has got any personal interest, he must inform the company about it and he should not be involved in such types of contracts. And if he is involved and he has not informed, so automatically it is a breach of trust. So because of the breach of trust, so he is going to lose the directorships. Apart from that, if he is not going to tell, if he has got any personal interest in a contract, directly or indirectly, which the company is entering into, he has to tell it. If he is not disclosing, again it amounts to the violation of faith, violation of trust. So in that case, automatically he loses the directorship. And the disqualification may be from the side of the tribunal, maybe from the side of the court. Court sometimes because of some kind of criminal offense, or tribunal because of some aspects of violations may tell the director to vacate the office. Or he is convicted of any kind of criminal offense, then he has to vacate, maybe because of moral turpitude or because of any other thing which is of criminal nature, then he has to vacate the office. And sometimes he is also removed by the provisions of the act. So as per the provisions of the act, his term comes to an end, or he is holding the office on behalf of another, maybe a casual director, alternate director, something like that. Term comes to an end, so automatically he has to vacate the office. And if he is not vacating, these are the grounds on which a director has to vacate the office. If he is not vacating the office, then he will be penalized. And this penalty, it varies from 1 lakh to 5 lakh. So he has to pay a penalty amount for not vacating the office. It varies from rupees 1 lakh to 5 lakhs rupees. And that he has to pay if he is not vacating as a punishment. So this is relating to the vacating of office of the director. Apart from that, a director can be removed by the company. Under section 169, it says the company may by ordinary resolution require giving a special notice, can remove a director from his office. So a company can decide, the board of directors can decide to remove a person as a director under section 169, and for that nothing is required, only one ordinary resolution and giving a special notice. So regarding the special notice and resolution, we will again discuss under the company meetings. So this is very simple arrangement, and accordingly he will be intimated and he has to vacate the office. However, but there are certain exceptions to this rule. Exceptions that all directors cannot be removed. Those directors who are appointed by the central government, or the nominee directors, or the directors who are appointed by National Company Law Tribunal, or the directors who are appointed by on the proportional representation. So those directors, they are not going to be removed in this process. So that can be done in other process. So generally the directors who are appointed by the shareholders, they are only removed from the office by ordinary resolution giving a special notice. Now there is another provision relating to the director's resignation. This is relating to removal, already we have discussed. Now we will discuss relating to resignation by director. Suppose a director gives resignation. So this resignation he will give it to the board and this will go to the register of companies. So register of company, this is under the section 168 deals with this. So register of companies he has to inform, along with that he is leaving the board, and the reason for leaving the board also has to be given, and the company will hold a board meeting by giving 7 days notice, clear notice, 7 days of clear notice, which does not include that both the notice date and the date of the meeting does not include, clear 7 days notice it has to be there, and the board will meet and discuss among themselves regarding this and decide to accept the resignation. So if the board decides to accept the resignation, then resignation is accepted. Accordingly, it will be intimated to the director that and there is a particular form, and that form he has to fill up. And this intimation also goes to the register of companies, because what is the reason he also wants to know why a person is leaving the particular board, so that has to be intimated. And once the director leaves, then automatically it happens that after he leaves, from the date of his notice, giving a notice, he is no more coming to the board, he is no more associated with the board. It may be delayed because the things will take some time, it may be delayed, but he will be not counted as a director. So it has been given, Buckley on the Companies Act states that director can, subject to the provisions of the article, resign from the office and cannot withdraw his resignation without the company's consent. So once a director gives resignation, he cannot take it back. But however, there must be a provision in the article the way the director has to resign from the office. And this resignation may be unilateral or bilateral, both the parties. So unilateral or bilateral, the act of relinquishment, that is the resignation, may take different forms and assume unilateral or bilateral character depending on the nature of the office and the condition governing it. This is what the law says. So whether it will be taken one-sided unilateral or from both the sides bilateral, mutual understanding. Director by mutual understanding can resign. Director suo motu can resign from the office because of certain problems, because of certain reasons. Now let us come to the other part. What are the powers and rights available to the directors? If you look at the powers, there are certain powers, we call it as a general power, and there are certain powers which can only be exercised in the meeting of the board. So general powers are given under section 179. So section 179 gives a general power. So these powers are just for functioning. As a director, he is functioning. So because he is functioning as a director, and these are the generally it is available to all the directors of the company. It is not specifically available, it is available to all the directors of the company, and generally they do exercise it. And these powers are important for the regions, and they derive these powers or the rights mainly because of the provisions of the company's article. So company's article, they give the powers to the board of directors, to the directors themselves also. So based on that, he functions. And these powers are general powers. And when we look at these powers, so these powers, as it is general powers, nothing special about it, but there are certain powers which are exercised at the board meeting. This is more important. So these powers which are exercised at the board meeting, that is under 179, section 179. So these powers mainly consists of different categories of things. Let us see what are those things. For example, it is power to make calls to shareholders, or power to make calls to unpaid shareholders, and to authorize to buy back the securities, or to issue securities including debentures, or to borrow money, or to invest the funds of the company, to grant loans, give guarantee, to provide financial statement and the board's report, to diversify the business of the company, to approve amalgamation, merger, reconstruction, etc. So these are the things which a director can exercise only in the board meeting. He cannot exercise independent of the board meeting. So that is important. Now there are certain restrictions given on these powers of the board. These restrictions are recorded under section 180. Section 180 of section 1 provides that the board of directors of a public company or a private company which is a subsidiary of the public company shall not, except with the consent of the public company or subsidiary of the public company, undertake or do any of the things like sale or lease or otherwise dispose of the whole or substantial part of the undertaking. So any director cannot do this. So he is not empowered to sell, to lease any part of the undertaking. So he is not empowered. Neither he can sell or he can lease out or dispose of the undertaking, because they do not have power to do so. Their powers are restricted for that. Second, invest otherwise in trust securities the amount of compensation received by the result of a merger or amalgamation. So whatever money the company receives by way of merger and amalgamation, that part he has to spend in a particular way, and this has to be decided. So in as per the articles, provisions of article, as per the understanding, they have to do it. They cannot do of their own, they cannot spend of their own. Next thing, remit or give time by repayment of any debt due to the directors. So they cannot accept, they cannot eliminate, they cannot pay away anything, any debt which is due to the directors, because the directors themselves cannot waive such liabilities. So any kind of waiver and other things have to be decided by the shareholders. So that is most important. Let us come to the duties and obligations of the directors. These duties and obligations of the directors, that is, you have got two categories. One is a statutory duty, another is a general duty. Statutory duties are given under the Act. Section 166 deals with statutory duties, and general duties are, in general, it has been followed. Now, because the directors are acting in good faith, and the Act says under section 166, it says that we have to act in good faith and for the best interest of the company. Every director has to act in good faith and in the interest of the company. They should not take their own personal interest, and good faith indicates that they should be faithfully fulfill the objective of the company. So what is this basic objective of the company? They should fulfill. They should not violate from the basic objective. They have to be act as a trustee, because each director is identified as a trustee, and they have to keep that trust or the faith intact. That is the first thing that comes under section 166 subsection 2. Subsection 3 says that acting with care, skill and independent judgment, because all directors, they have to take decisions. So their judgment is important. So they have to use their skill and judgment properly to take decision relating to the matters of the company. And if they fail, the company will collapse. That is why it is their duty, whatever judgment, whatever decisions they are taking, it should be for the benefit of the company, and it should be that the company, for the growth of the company or for the development of the company. Third thing, no conflict of interest. Personal interest should not come in between. So if personal subsection 4 says personal interest should not come, no personal interest is entertained. So you have to see the interest of the company. There should not be any conflict between your personal objective, company's objective. If there is a conflict, company's objective should remain intact, should be kept. Then next one, subsection 5 says no undue gain or advantage. The directors should not make profit out of the company. The decisions they are taking, they should not make profit for their personal things. Many cases, some directors make profit out or personal gains out of the agreements they sign. That should not be allowed. That is not allowed by statute. That is not allowed by law. Then next, there is no assignment. The directors cannot transfer their office or the rights to another person to perform on their behalf. So every director is required to be present in the meeting. They have to attend the meeting and they have to perform, take decision for the company, for the benefit of the company. They cannot assign this to another person. They cannot attend by proxy, just like the shareholders. They cannot do that. So no assignment is allowed. So there are also other statutory duties. As per law, there are certain statutory duties that is also available, that is to convene statutory annual general body meeting, extraordinary meeting. This is also by law. It is there. All directors are responsible to convene the meetings of the company. So whether it is a statutory meeting, which is for the public limited company, statutory meeting once you have to call, or AGM every year you have to call, or extraordinary annual general meeting, that is if it is required. Then they have to authenticate and approve the annual financial statements. So whatever the audited financial statement, they must approve it. All the director must sign. The authorized people, they must sign. So that is their duty that they have to fulfill. And the appointment of the first auditor of the company, they have to do. They must appoint who is the first auditor, who will carry out. And every AGM also the auditors are renewed, or new auditors may be appointed depending on the case. But the first auditor is appointed by the directors, the first directors. So it is their duty to take care of that. And appointment of additional director of the company. If at all any additional director is required, the board will appoint. So it is the duty of the board to appoint the right person as independent director, additional director, and fill up the vacancies of the director. All these things they have to do. Now come to the what are the general duties of the board of directors, or general duties of the directors. The general duties, if you consider duty of good faith, same thing it comes, that every director must act faithfully for the company. It is an individual personal thing. So personally, otherwise what happens, they will be personally liable. So any director not acting in good faith may be personally liable. And second thing, that they must take duty of care. That should be there. They must take care of the company, because one director can also be director of other companies because one person can be director of 10 companies, even for 20 companies. So that is why, but care has to be taken. Whenever they are taking any decision, they must take utmost care for the benefit of the company. That is important. That is a general rule. And duty not to delegate. They should not delegate their part to another person. So delegation is not allowed. So they must personally be involved in the decision making process, and they must see that all decisions are for the benefit of the company. And it is necessary that they should fulfill all the provisions of the articles. The powers are given by the articles. They should see whatever powers are given by the articles, that is actually fulfilled by them, or that is actually carried out by them. Now come to the next part, that is the liabilities of the directors. These liabilities are categorized in uh, four categories of liabilities. First liability, the liability to the company. Second liability, liability to the third parties. Then liability for breach of statutory duties, whatever statutory duties are given. So those statutory duties, if they are not fulfilling, they are liable to the act. And criminal liability. So these are the four categories of liabilities it is categorized. So under the liability to the company, first thing, that breach of fiduciary duty. Fiduciary means faithfulness, because you are acting in good faith. Company law says you have to act in good faith. General principle says you have to act in good faith. So if you are not acting in good faith, you are not fulfilling the liability. You are not fulfilling the duties. So the automatically it creates a liability. So if you are not acting, so if you are breaking that good faith, automatically you are liable. Personally you are liable. Then another thing which comes, ultra vires acts. So any director, they should not do any act which is ultra vires of articles or ultra vires of memorandum. So directors, they know the rules and regulations, they have to observe the rules and regulations, and they should not violate the rules and regulation. Ultra vires means violating, going beyond the articles or going beyond the memorandum. Then they should not be negligent of their duties. So when they are signing document, they should verify the documents, they should see what is written in the documents. They should not be negligent on that. Without verifying the documents, if some director is signing, then automatically he is personally liable. And whether it is coming within the purview of the company law or it is coming within the purview of the articles and memorandum, so those part they must verify it. If they are not verifying, then personal liability comes up. And directors should not have malified intention, means wrong intention. Intention to cheat the company, intention to cheat the people, intention to cheat the shareholders, or intention to deceive people, deceive the employees or that. Such things should not be there with the directors. Then come to the second category, liability to the third parties. Liability to the third parties, under the provisions of Companies Act, the liability to the third parties, if they are doing something which is beyond the articles, beyond the memorandum, personally they are liable as per the act. So any director violating the conditions of the law personally will be liable by the act. And there may be penalties, there may be criminal offences, there may be also imprisonment. And liability for breach of warranty. Now question comes regarding the warranty, breach of warranty, because every director is supposed to perform his office in good faith and keeping all the rules and regulation, and they are acting as a trustee, and they are the bearer of the entire company. They represent the company. So the breach of warranty, when you fail to represent the company in a proper manner, when the goodwill of the company is affected by your act, or the company is identified as a company which deceives people, which gives faulty things, so automatically it becomes the directors who will be responsible. Then third thing that comes, liability for breach of statutory duties. So whenever by statute certain duties, as we discussed, those duties, if the director is not fulfilling those duties, he is breaking those things, and by that automatically personal liability comes up. So consequences will be that they will be personally liable, they may be penalized, they may be put into prison. Then last one is the criminal liability, when a director commits something which is by nature it is criminal. For example, certain cases which comes up, suppose they do not file the returns, tax returns they do not file, or they do not give the audited statements, or they give a statement in the prospectus which is misleading and which is false, or they do not give the share certificate, shares have been issued, certificates are not been given, debenture certificates are not given, bond certificates are not given, or they are not returning the money in time to the shareholders. When there is a oversubscription, they have to return the money in time, otherwise they have to pay penalty, and unnecessarily they are delaying without any reason. So that amounts to criminal liability, where the company is not involved, they will be liable, though it is relating to the company, so they will be liable and they will be penalized for that. So these are the things which is relating to the directors. So today we discussed about the powers, removal of the director from the office, resignation of the director, and the powers of the director, the duties of the director, and the liabilities of the director. So this is relating to the management portions. So we have completed that, and next session we will start another new chapter relating to company. So till then, goodbye. Thank you very much.